past 7 years, I've traveled the nation on an unusual mission, collecting the embarrassing stuff people have saved from childhood. Now I've decided to share that unique experience with you.
This is the first time, maybe ever, I've shared this stuff with anybody.
By sitting down with today's most influential personalities and peeking inside the pages of their past.
Let's open the scary box.
Please forgive me.
Today we're sitting down with Alanis Morissette. The former child actor turned mega rock star has toured the planet, won Grammys, and even played God in a movie. But years before Alanis' music soared to new heights, she had a hairdo that soared even higher. Are the secrets to her success buried in the pages of our past? Find out when Alanis shares her most mortifying memories. Where is this?
It is at a retirement home. I used to sing at retirement homes sometimes. I was singing both songs that I wrote and doing cover songs, probably of Sheena Easton and Whitney Houston. And singing at that time, you know, you had to move very seductively to do the Sheena Easton thing.
So did you move seductively while like strut?
Yeah, inappropriately so, I would say, especially at a retirement home.
The performance paid off. Soon Alanis landed a gig on the classic Canadian TV show You Can't Do That on Television. Pressure to excel in both career and school became a way of life for the young girl. This is your schoolwork.
The thing that embarrasses me is the abject perfectionism.
Is this, these check marks are all correct?
Yeah.
And this, we see here, 100%.
Yeah.
So you're not messing around?
No. And I wasn't messing around in anything.
Was education stressed in your family, or is this, again, something you're putting on yourself?
My parents were both teachers. My dad's taught for 35 years.
Was reading really important to you?
Reading's huge. Upstairs here, I have a lot of books. And the reason why I bought my house was because it had a built-in bookshelf.
You know you can build those.
I know, that's what I realized later.
Even outside the classroom, schoolwork continued to serve as a focal point. Years before Alanis wrote angry rock lyrics about matters of the heart, she wrote poetry about matters of another organ.
This poem is called Lungs.
And can you tell me a little bit about what inspired Lungs?
I don't want to. I think I should just read it. Lungs. Some lungs aren't nice to look at, especially the ones of a cat. We have to live with them and breathe, and life is part of living with air. All of us have to be fair and share. Be nice to your lungs. Talk to it. It feels like you just came out of a pit, because you can share your feelings with it. We all know lungs can't talk or walk. Don't pretend it's just a metal object like a lock. You might say bad words and get in heck. Why not study lungs in science and tech? By Alanis Morissette.
So now I can see that you're very uncomfortable reading that. Is that, I mean, you've won a lot of awards and acclaim
And
as
I'm a wordsmith.
as a writer, as a songwriter.
And I used to be upset that the guys I worked with when I was younger didn't think that I could be a lyricist. It was all about the words having to rhyme. Heart, apart, fly, sky. Like the use of the words that just rhyme but don't really mean so much. I had to rhyme as a kid. There was this pressure for rhyming. You must rhyme or you are a bad poet.
What is hardest about reading that?
You know, I just picture Bob Dylan and Woody Guthrie writing genius stuff when they were 7.
No, they wrote Lungs.
Did they? I don't think they did, man.
No.
I mean, I know a lot of people who are super hipster artists who, when you look at stuff they did, they were drawing these like crazy, you know, tripped out monsters as kids. And I look at this and I just think, I could see how there's two things going on
She's
here.
fine.
She's a little dense.
An independent streak began to emerge in the star student known for singing to little old ladies. A new, more outspoken identity began to surface. All she needed next was an outlet.
So this is the record that I put out when I was 10. I was at the fork in the road of my career, and I decided that working on a television show required a lot of people, and writing a song required nobody. So I wrote a song and I sent a tape to friends of the family who were musicians. When I walked into the photo shoot, my friend said I looked like myself, a 10 or 11-year-old. And when I walked out, she said I looked like a 40-year-old. This is another photo from that same photo shoot.
I would have gone with this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? This one's more mysterious.
I like what this suggests, this piano tie. You could have gotten a job working at the Saved by the Bell diner.
More age appropriate, too.
Were you aware of that at the time? Where you're like, I want to look more sophisticated and
I just thought, wow, makeup. But, you know, that's a little weird. Because girls don't have any control over their thing when they're that little. They can't calibrate the incoming energy. So you throw this thing out into the world.
You mean like she's projecting sort of a more mature, almost sexual...
Yeah.
And then older men are like, oh, hello, and you're
just like, flattered, as opposed to...
You don't even get it.
Yeah.
Now, this is Alanis at age...
14, and I was in a play. I was in Oliver, and I was Nancy's best friend, Bet. But I played a boy and a girl in this. What does that say? I played one of the boys in the orphanage, and then I played her. So I went back and forth.
Was that a cost-saving thing for your theater?
I think they thought she is a little masculine and sometimes feminine, so we'll just use both of her.
You look quite mature and sophisticated here.
That was the problem. I used to, basically as a 14-year-old or a 10-year-old, I used to dress inappropriately older. So I had a ton of makeup on, lots of big hair. I think this company loaned me a fur coat for this event.
Now, why would a company loan a teenage girl a fur coat for an event?
Because I was sort of a local... My brother would laugh if I admitted this, but I was sort of the pop princess of my city. I was on a television show I think I was 11, on You Can't Do That on Television.
Right.
So, yeah, some people knew who
So this is post-slime.
Post-slime, pre-grime, and dating way older men.
Did you have to lie to them as well?
No, they knew.
So they knew?
Which makes it even
so they
more
were just
a little tweaked.
Creepy.
They were just creepy.
Tell me a little bit more about when you were a kid and you were 10 and dealing with people looking at you in sort of perhaps a sexualized way because you were dressing older, or even your need to act older.
Trying to, in a way that I now see is not unusual for a young girl, to figure out where my power was. So it seemed to piss certain guys off that I could play badminton and beat them. Okay, so don't do that.
That you could play what?
Badminton. Sports. I was good at sports.
Of all the sports to pick,
I
you
love
picked
badminton.
the girliest sport.
I was a girl. Okay, basketball. The only thing that seemed non-threatening to men and seemed to inspire joy and inspiration in them was for me to be sexual as a girl, but I was too young to calibrate it. So I had this huge power, as I see all young, blossoming 11, 12-year-old young girls have it, but they don't have the emotional, or I didn't have the emotional maturity to wield it in a discerning, protective way.
And how do you think that affects your sexuality now?
That's a great question. Well, I just learned boundaries now. Whereas, you know, early 20s, teens, 20s itself, I just was still kind of playing around with yes, no, it's all a continuum, right? So now as an adult, I have more control, and I know how much power a young, attractive, sexual woman has, and that she has to be responsible for that. Period. And as a 12-year-old, I just thought, wow, I have a lot of power. Let's have fun with this. Let's get into dangerous situations. Let's be in over my head. I didn't know. Whereas now I go, oh, shut that off.
As the goody two-shoes girl grew up fast, her life quickly became a balancing act.
I think there were two lives. There was the life where I would go straight from school to the studio and stay there till 3 or 4 in the morning, drinking whiskey and making music, and kind of hanging out with the older crowd, and going to Paris to shoot video shoots and missing school for it. And then there was the life of sport playing, hanging out with my peers. I was always tired because I was up all night and then getting up at 7 to go to school. Did
the girl over here, the good schoolgirl, did she know that some of these activities were, I mean, did she,
untoward?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, of course.
And you liked the rule breaking aspect of that at the time?
Well, I broke the rules in sort of secretive ways that wouldn't sort of taint the perfectionistic persona. And then later, like in my 20s and definitely even in my 30s, the bow broke.
Meaning?
Meaning I did all the things that I wasn't allowed to do as a perfect little girl. I'm a checklist kind of person, so I had this long checklist of things that I'd never done that were rites of passage for people my age, and that I had never done. And if I was ever going to have a so-called normal trajectory of a normal life, I had to do some of these things to get it out of my system.
So it was like an adolescent bucket list?
Thank you.
As a kid, it seemed like you were kind of struggling with being two different people. There was good Alanis and wild Alanis. Was it hard for you as you got older trying to find one?
Yeah, the whole journey's been about integrating all of it. So, not disqualifying the goody two-shoes, people-pleasing, please love me, don't abandon me part, and then not disqualifying the rage-filled powerhouse will kick your ass part who's acting out and having a lot of fun, and so they're all friends now.
The pressure-filled life of being an A student and a pop star eventually sparked a rebellious phase. This seems like the beginning of some brooding.
Yeah, this is the beginning of, how was I? Probably 15 or 16.
Yeah.
Blossoming physically, but also just horrified that I was trying to be 30, but also, kind of being in the public eye.
Most teenagers don't want anyone looking at them, and here you are at age 15, and everyone's looking at you.
Right, weird.
Did that feel magnified for you, or did you?
Well, yeah, I had a full-blown eating disorder by this point, so I was definitely subject to the pressure early.
Right.
Because I went from being kind of a little beanpole girl to all of a sudden not, and that was confusing. And I was also sold the funny bill of goods of, become famous, all will be well story. So the brass ring.
That's not true? Apparently.
No, it's totally true.
Oh, sweet. At age 19, Alanis discovered a way to channel everything she'd been going through when she began writing something new. A rock album.
Not allowed to be angry as a kid.
Oh, you weren't?
No. Squish, squash, subjugate. So squash that long enough, and guess what someone's going to be splooging all over everybody. Eventually, right?
Right.
So squash, 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 be happy, smiley, perfect, straight A's, be the good girl, service, help, I'll help you, don't worry about me, aw shucks. And then you emancipate, and then you, me in this case, then all of a sudden I'm writing songs, and Glenn Ballard, whom I worked with, says, tell me whatever is going on. And he was safe, and I just went.
And do you feel like that was like a pinhole being punctured into like a tidal wave of emotion that had been?
And I gave myself the permission to move away from Canada and start over, for lack of a better term. And I didn't want to stop until I wrote a record that really represented the full color of the spectrum. So a lot of people in Canada heard Jagged Little Pill and went, what is this? We had happy-go-lucky, pop, bubblegummy, perfectionist people-pleaser. And now we have this freaked out, angry, greasy girl. And my response and thought at the time was, well, finally, they're all true.
Right.
I do want people to like me. This is me speaking as a 19-year-old, I still do. But I do want people to like me. I am pissed off. I am happy. I am all these things at any given moment. But now I'm allowed to be sad, and I'm allowed to be angry, at least in my art. So that's where Jagged Little Pill came from, to me.
Looking at this girl, what would you say to this girl now if you ran into her today?
I would say first, please pull your pants down for the love of Christ.
And what else would you tell her?
I would say go have some fun. Go have fun. Other people said that to me then, I wasn't listening anyway.
Yeah.
But I would take her somewhere fun as opposed to an audition. Although it's perfect, I wouldn't change a damn thing. But if someone were to
Where would you take her?
I would take her to a water park and maybe eat some donuts.
Were you not allowed to go to a water park as a kid?
No sadness, no anger, no water park.
What do you think this kid would be mortified to learn about who she became?
Wow, that everything she thought will be blown out of the water times 10, and that everything she thinks is right and will win approval will all be blown out of the water.
Thank you so much. How was that? Did that feel?
Definitely awesome, and I'm gonna probably need to have some tequila.